you guys that don't know, my name is Jimmy Lloyd. I'm one of the pastors here at Fairlawn Church. I'm the good-looking one. And Sunday is, without a doubt, my favorite day of the week. I love hanging out with you guys and being here, and I thank you for coming and hanging out. I understand that there's many other places you could be, and a lot of other things you could be doing, like maybe sleeping or eating breakfast at Captain's Galley, or getting ready or making it in time to have lunch at Cracker Barrel. But by the way, since I'm speaking, you will not make it on time. Hopefully you don't have a scheduled time. You should have just packed a lunch. I'm just telling you right now. I'm just kidding.
No, you're not.
Just kidding. So I want to start this off. I have a confession to make. I feel like I need to get this off my chest, and something that I've been hiding from you guys for the past 2 years. It's almost 2 years. It's about how long it's been since we've been here, and I'm hesitant to tell you this because, well, I don't want it to change the way you feel about me, but if it does, I totally understand. So I just can't go any farther without sharing it, but I have, how can I put this? I have very sensitive feet. Now, I said it. I did. Feels good to get that off. It has nothing to do with the message. I just needed to let you guys know that. I do. It's true. I have very sensitive feet. At home, we have tile in some areas of the house, and we have other areas of the house. We have, well, it looks like wood. It's actually like vinyl planks, but I cannot walk through my house without flip-flops on. I don't have any bedtime slippers. No one has ever bought them for me. I would wear them if I had them, but when I get out of the shower, I have to put on flip-flops. Like, I cannot walk like 2 feet from that in my house without shoes on. I mean, I am like, it's every now and then I'll like lose my flip-flops, or I'll put them somewhere. They'll go under the bed, or Julie hides them from me. I believe that's what happens. And I have to like walk around and try to find them with no, guys, get this, with no shoes on, no flip-flops, and it hurts my feet, for real. It does. Now, where that fits in to the rest of the message, I'll let you decide. I just wanted to let you guys know that if you get nothing else from this, maybe you'll take away the sensitive feet story. Yeah, it's getting to know each other. So, there's this story in the Bible about this dude named Moses. Maybe you heard of him, a pretty popular guy. A lot of people have heard about this dude named Moses. He wrote several books of the Old Testament. I believe it's the first 5. And when we get to the story of Moses, at this time, the Israelites, the Hebrew people, they are living in Egypt. Why are they living in Egypt? Well, you may remember the story of Joseph. His brothers threw him in a pit, and then they ended up selling him into slavery. He ends up in Egypt. He ends up being the second in charge of Egypt, and there was a famine in the land. His brothers came, didn't realize it was him, but they made up, and then he said, y'all come and live in Egypt. And then all of the Israelites, or a lot of them, started moving to Egypt and living in Egypt. And the Pharaoh of that time, he was very fond of Joseph, and he gave them the land of Goshen. He says, just live in it like it's your land. This is, so they all lived in the land of Goshen. Now, a few years later, Joseph died, and his brothers died. The Pharaoh died, and a new Pharaoh came in. And this Pharaoh, he had no connection to the Israelites. He had no connection to Joseph. And he looks out over the land, and he looks in the land of Goshen, and he says, those Israelites are like multiplying like bunny rabbits. Like, they are everywhere. Like, it's just like a sea of Israelites. And he starts thinking about it, and he's like, if they continue the way they're going, there's going to be more Israelites than there are Egyptians, and we can't have that because then they'll take over. They'll run this place. So he started putting on these strict rules for the Israelites and making them work hard labor and just making life so miserable for them and thinking this is going to stop them from reproducing. But it didn't. They continued even more so, continued to multiply because if you live in Florida and you know how there's a hurricane that knocks out your power and there's no TV to watch it. There's only one thing to do, guys. All right, if you're married. And there is probably a lot of people in this room. You are here because there was a hurricane at some point. And your mom and dad were bored. So they continue to multiply. And so the Pharaoh was like, I got to come up with a plan. And he came up with this plan. He thought it was great. See, there was these two women. They were midwives. And apparently these two women delivered like all the babies in Israel, or the Israelites. And he calls them in to the palace and he says, okay, ladies, I appreciate your service. This is what I need you to do. Whenever there's a baby born, if it's a girl, you keep it. Give it to its mom. If it's a boy, you kill it. Say what, Pharaoh? Yeah, you just right there. It gets delivered from his mama, and then you kill it. Right then and there. Okay, Pharaoh, sure, we'll do that. They go out, they're like, we fear God more than we fear Pharaoh, so they didn't kill any babies. A little bit of time passes. Pharaoh is like, what is going on? I thought, there's a baby boy there, baby boy there, baby boy there. What? Get those two ladies back in here. Calls them back in the palace, and he's like, I thought I told you kill all the baby boys. And they said, well, what? You see what it is, Pharaoh? Us Israelite women, we have babies really fast. Like we just one after the other. We are not like you Egyptian women that sit around in your pregnancy and like watch a Maury and Judge Judy and you just have a baby whenever you want to. Like us Israelites, we don't play around when it comes to having babies. And we can't get around all. They're having babies so fast we can't get to them all. And here's the crazy, this is a miracle. Pharaoh bought it. He let them leave. And the Bible says that God blessed these two women. I thought for sure he was going to kill them. He didn't. So Pharaoh had to come up with another plan. So this is what he did. He wrote it out. He made it into a law. And he said, all Egyptians, all my people, all you Egyptians, whenever you see a baby boy Israelite, you take that baby boy, grab it from its mama, and you throw it in the Nile River. And that's what they did. And at that time, there were just baby boys, Israelites, Hebrew boys being thrown into the Nile River as soon as they were born. Now, we get to the story of Moses and Moses' mom. If we look in Exodus chapter 2, verse 2, it says, so the woman conceived and bore a son. And when she saw that he was a beautiful child, she hid him for 3 months. Now, I feel like there needs to be an asterisk on this. There needs to be a little footnote, okay? Because anybody know who wrote Exodus? Moses, right? I'm sure his mom was like, you were just the most beautiful baby boy ever. You were just so beautiful. All mamas think their babies are beautiful, right? They're like, oh, come, look at my baby. Come look at my baby. Come here, Pastor Jimmy. Look at my baby. Isn't he so beautiful? He's something. Now, I've learned, okay, this is what you do because people frown upon pastors lying. All right, so go figure. You say, only you could have a baby that looks like that. That's how you do it. That's how you play it off, yeah. Yeah. So if you want to pick that up, take that with you, you can. She's like, he's the most beautiful child. And she hid him for 3 months. Now, 3 months have passed. This baby is crying. She can't hide him anymore. She's like, baby Moses is like crying all the time. Like he is just screaming. Like it's like he's trying to wake all the Israelites up and lead them out of Egypt or something. So what she does, she builds this little baby boat. All right? Now, I'm sure all of us at one point in time, we built baby boats, right? Right? We're a lot of big baby boat builders. I know Tara is. And she built this baby boat. She put the baby in the boat, And where do you think she put that boat? In the Nile River. What? Like, if it came along the wrong Egyptian, he'd have been like, oh, this is easy. Done. That didn't happen. But I think we would have try to find a different body of water to put that baby in, not the one that they've been throwing all the baby Hebrew boys in. But she did. She put the little baby boat with the baby in it, in the Nile River, starts going down. Now, the baby is found by this woman, who this woman just happens to be the daughter of Pharaoh. The dude who said, throw all the baby boys in the Nile River, his daughter found him, picked him up, said, ooh, what a beautiful baby boy. So maybe his mother was right. Now, at that time, when she did that, Moses' sister was following. She was following the boat. She was hiding behind the bushes. She was waiting. Pharaoh's daughter picks the baby up, and she thinks about this, okay? There is a baby formula shortage in Egypt. There is. You know why? Because baby formula was not invented till 1865. I looked that up. It's true. Can't say that I don't do any research for my messages. So there's no baby formula. She's like, I need to find a woman that will nurse this baby. His sister jumped out and says, I know the perfect woman. Because, she just had a baby, but you know what's going on with all the Hebrew boys and all that stuff, the Nile River and stuff. But she would probably love to nurse this baby because he's so beautiful. And she's like, sold, let's do it. So then Pharaoh's daughter now gives baby Moses back to his mom to nurse him and to raise him until he gets to a certain age. And she gets paid to do it. Now listen, if you are a parent, I am sure you, just like me, you have thought this before a time or two, is I should be getting paid to do this. I mean, don't get me wrong. There are times I'm like, man, I just love being around my kids. Woo! And there are times where I'm picking up underwear from the floor for the 100th time and thinking, I should be getting paid for this. But Moses' mom got paid to take care of her baby boy until he got to a certain age, and at that certain age, she gave him back to Pharaoh's daughter, and he was raised in the palace. Now, as he got older, Moses, because he knew, his Hebrew heritage, so he went to see his people, the Israelites, and he's walking, and he sees that the Israelites are living in terrible conditions. He sees how hard they are working. And then he sees this Egyptian manhandling this Israelite. And Moses thinks, he takes it upon himself and says, I need to take care of this. He jumps in, he grabs him, and he ends up murdering the Egyptian. Now, Moses at first, he don't think people's going to find out about this. He thought he got away with it. Then he finds out people are talking about this. People know about this. Pharaoh finds out about this and says, we need to have Moses arrested and then executed. All right? Then we find that. We look in Exodus chapter 2, 15 and 16. It says this. It says, when Pharaoh heard of this, he tried to kill Moses. But Moses fled from Pharaoh and went to live in Midian, where he sat down by a well. Now, we've heard the story. All right, we have a whole ministry titled after it. We heard the story of the woman at the well. But here, we see Moses at a well. How about the story about 7 women at the well? Because it says here in verse 16, it says, now a priest of Midian had 7 daughters, and they came to draw water and fill their troughs to water their father's flock. Moses starts talking to him. He chases some people away that are talking smack to these 7 daughters. Moses obviously has pretty good game because they end up inviting him back to their house. All right? These 7 women. And he gets there and he meets this dude named Jethro. He's the dad of these 7 women. This is a picture of Jethro, his younger days. Jethro is a Midian priest. He takes a liking to Moses and he says, I'm going to give you one of my daughters to marry. Now, we are not privy to know if Moses got to pick out of these 7 daughters. That could be a little harsh, right? He's like, no, you ugly. You got funny looking ears. All right, I'll take you. That would be like a little, they'd probably leave that part out. But he ends up marrying one of the daughters, and her name is Zipporah. If you are expecting and you're looking to name a baby girl, Zipporah is available. And the Bible says that Moses ended up living in Midian, working for his father-in-law for 40 years. He's there for 40 years. He's a shepherd for Jethro. Now, one day, Moses is just walking along in this land that he's been on for 40 years, and he sees this bush on fire. Now, not a big deal. It's out like in the desert. It's hot. Trees catch on fire. But there's something different about this bush, because this bush is on fire, but it is not burning up. And Moses is like, oh, that's interesting. Let me go check on that bush. He walks there, and then he hears this loud voice start speaking to him through the bush. All right? And as we find that in Exodus 3:5. Exodus 3:5. This voice says, do not come any closer, God said. Take off your sandals, for the place where you are standing is holy ground. Now, I'll just admit, if that was me, I'd be like, God, you know my feet are kind of sensitive, right? And can you make this one exception? All right? Because my feet are going to start hurting, and I got to walk and take care of these sheep. So if I could just keep my shoes on. But Moses, his feet were not sensitive, obviously, so he did that. So he says, you take your sandals off. You are standing on holy ground. Now, here's where my thought process goes, all right? Hopefully this don't mess you guys up, all right? Because this is getting inside my brain and how it works. But I'm thinking about this, and I'm like, Moses has been walking around the same land, the same ground. He's been walking around the desert of Midian, taking care of the same sheep for 40 years. Most likely, he has walked past this bush that is on fire before. So did the ground change? Did something happen to the same ground, right? So this is what I want to ask you guys. And this is me asking. I'm not telling you. I'm asking you this. Is it possible that Moses, this whole time, has been standing on holy ground, but he just didn't realize it? And he didn't realize it until it was brought to his attention, hey, you're standing on holy ground. Now, if you want to argue, and you may have an argument, I think it's a fair argument, you say, well, Pastor Jimmy, this is the Old Testament. We are no longer living in the Old Testament. In the Old Testament, the Spirit of God didn't live in us. It lived, at one point in the tabernacle. It lived different places. And so, fair argument, all right? Fair argument that God is still omnipresent. God is still everywhere. And if we had the time, and we don't, but if we had the time, I would sit there and try to make an argument with you, and I think it's debatable. I'll just say that, all right? So I will say, for argument's sake and for time's sake, you win the argument. All right? But we are now living in the New Testament. We are living in the New Covenant. And Matthew 28:20 says, I am always with you. And we know Paul talks about the Spirit living inside of us. So this is my question is, are we walking on holy ground all the time, passing burning bushes on the left, burning bushes on the right, but because we are distracted, and we are moving so fast, and we are trying to get things done so quickly that we don't even recognize it? My question is it all holy ground? And my answer to that is yes. We are always standing on holy ground. So God tells Moses through the bush, he says, I called you to deliver my people out of Egypt. Now, have you ever gotten a conversation where you're talking to somebody and some time has passed and you're like, did they tell me their name or not? Like, I can't remember. And you don't know their name and you want to say their name, but you're not sure if you say the right one. You got two choices. You just call them, hey, buddy. Hey, sister. Hey. Or you could just throw out a random name that you think maybe it is, like, hey, Sandy? Hey? And then she starts looking around. You're like, no, not Sandy. So you got that option. But that kind of happened with Moses. So Moses is like, well, God in the burning bush, I don't even know your name. And if I go out and I try to rescue these people and say, hey, follow me, they're going to ask me what your name is. So I need to know, what is your name? What do I tell them? And we find that in Exodus 3:15. It says this. It says, 3:15. It says, God also said to Moses, say to the Israelites, the Lord, the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob, has sent me to you. Tell them the Lord. Now, if we're reading the English translation, which we are, okay, some of you are wondering if this is English or not. This is English. But if we read the English translation, it will say Lord, capital L, capital O, capital R, capital D. This word, Lord, is mentioned over 6,000 times in the Bible, the name of God. Now, if we take this, though, and we are, because the original was not written in English, by the way, all you King James Version people, that's all, that's not the original one. That's not the one that Paul read, okay? The original Bible was written in Hebrew, then translated into Greek, but in Hebrew, it says something different. And in English, we'd pronounce the letters this way: YHVH. But in Hebrew, it's pronounced Yah-hey-vah-hey. Some people would say Yahweh or Yahweh, but there's ancient priests that they would not even pronounce this name at all. Some of them, many spiritual institutions would not even say this name at all because they thought the name was just too mysterious and too holy, and they wouldn't even say that. Actually, they would put things in their literature to make sure people didn't say the name of God. And in Hebrew, to say these even though they are consonants, in Hebrew they sound more like vowels. And to say these are part of the Hebrew alphabet, and to say these letters the right way, you actually have to relax your tongue and say them. And they sound and they said that, and they would say it's impossible to actually pronounce the name when you put all the letters together, because what it sounded like breathing sounds. So here's my next question: is the name of God the sound of breathing? Is the name of God the sound of breathing? Now, little statistics for you. You might want to write this down, Paul. Each day, the average person breathes 26,000 breaths a day. That's 14,000 liters of air. Experts say that optimal breathing, if we're going to have optimal breathing, and I know some of you have been, that's been your desire, optimal breathing, is 6 to 8 breaths a minute. That is optimal, to have the resting heart rate that you should have. 6 to 8, but most of us don't. Most of us, on average, the average person breathes 16 to 20 times a minute. Experts also say that we should be getting 99% of our energy, our energy that gets us to wake up, to go, to have drive. We should be getting 99% of that from the way we breathe, from our breathing. But the average person only taps into 10 to 20% of that energy. They also say that you should breathe from your stomach. But when we're distracted, when we're not thinking about it, when we're stressed, when we're moving too fast, we start to breathe from our chest. I mean, who has time to think about breathing and the way we breathe? And you're probably doing it right now because we're talking about it. But who thinks about their breathing? Now, the book of Genesis, chapter 2, verse 7, it tells this story. It talks about the creation of man. And it says, then the Lord God formed a man from the dust of the ground. Now, the Hebrew word for ground is Adama. That's where we get the word for man, Adam, or as we pronounce it, Adam. But it means from the ground. So I was telling Aiden about this yesterday. He was asking me what my message was about, and I was telling him this part, and I said, so it means like ground man or dirt man. And he said, those are the two worst names for a superhero. I could see Adam, he's like, oh man, I'm ground man. Oh, that don't sound right. Dirt man, I'm dirt man. Whatever, Adam. Sodom. Adam. Ecclesiastes says that we came from the dust and one day we'll return to the dust. Now, 2 Sundays ago, I wasn't planning on telling this story, but 2 Sundays ago, I was printing up. How many of you guys enjoy the little quiz we do before service? All right, 2 people, great. So I was getting ready for the Bible trivia. I was printing up the answer sheets at home. I could not for the life of me get my printer, my HP printer, to print either from my phone or from my computer. It was not working, and I was so mad. Now, I'm big about I will not call a person a name. I do not call names, but I have no problem calling an object a name. I was like hitting the table. I was about to throw the printer down the stairs. Julie comes up the stairs and goes, maybe would you like me to help you? I was like, it's useless. This printer's junk. She comes up, she works on it within a matter of seconds, she gets it to print. And then afterwards, I'm thinking about it, I'm like, why did I get so mad about that? Any of you ever been like that? Like you get so mad, you are like seconds from losing it. And then, in hindsight, you look back and it's like, why did I get so mad about that? Anybody ever felt like throwing their phone out the window? Like, it's just not working. Why do we get so mad? Why do we get so frustrated? Why? Because we're fragile. We came from the dust. We came from the dirt. We came from the ground. Psalms 104, it says, each person's life is but a breath. And if you've ever had to walk the halls of a hospital or stand at the head of a casket or driven down the street and seen a bad car accident, well, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Life is fragile. It's fragile. But at the same time, we have been breathed into. We go on to here in the same verse, Genesis 2:7, it says, then the Lord formed a man from the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became living. So man was there. God breathed into him. Man became alive and started functioning. So we are fragile, but at the same time, we have the breath of God living inside of us, flowing through us. This is the divine breath, and every single human being that has ever lived has had this breath, this same breath inside of them. Psalms 8, it says that we are crowned with glory and honor. He's not talking about God here. He's talking about us. He's talking about people. We have been crowned with glory and honor. We possess this untold strength and power, but life is still yet a breath. But we are been made by the creator of everything. Now, our physical breath is actually a picture of a deeper reality. And Pastor Chantel, you can come up here and play something because it may help me hurry up with this message. Probably not. Physical breath, it's a picture of a deeper reality. Now, see, in the Bible, the word breath and the word spirit are the same. It means the same thing. It means the same. In Hebrew, it is ruah. That's what it is in Hebrew. In the Greek, it is pneuma. That's where we get pneumonia from, that word. Ruah and pneuma. Psalms 104, it says, the God takes away the ruah, takes away breath, and we die and return to dust. But then it says, God sends ruah, same word, spirit, and they are created. It's the same word. You can interchange them, the same, spirit and breath. Now, the first Christians, they took this to a whole new level because what they believed is that this spirit, that this breath of God actually resides inside of us. Romans 8:11, it says, and if the spirit of him who raised Jesus from the dead is living in you, he who raised Christ from the dead will also give life to your mortal bodies because of the Spirit who lives in you. The Spirit who lives in you. Later in Romans 15, Paul tells us this Spirit of God that's living in us, it sanctifies us. Anybody know what sanctified means? When it's sanctified, it's like a purge. It's like a cleaning out. And the Bible says that when we let God in, we become aware of these things that we need to get out. And I think if we were all honest, I think we could all think of things that we need to let go of and we need to leave behind. What are you angry about? What are you concerned about? What are you anxious for? What's bothering you today? What is it that you need to breathe out? How many of you are fearful? How many of you have ever been fearful before? You know, if somebody jumps up and scares you, like if you're walking around the corner and I just go, ah, like that. Two things happen really quick. First thing that usually happens is it takes your breath away. You stop for a millisecond. You stop breathing. You ever had, sometimes it's longer than that. You ever had somebody go, just breathe? Like, when that spirit of fear comes upon us, we forget how to breathe. Or do we forget how to, at that moment, to say the name of God? And then when we catch our breath, most likely, usually what happens is you start breathing faster. You start saying the name of God faster. Romans 8:15. Romans 8:15, it says, so you have not received a spirit that makes you fearful slaves. Instead, you received God's Spirit when He adopted you as His own children. Now call Him Abba, Father. God hasn't sent a spirit of fear, but He has sent a spirit, and we are sons and daughters of our Heavenly Father. What is it that you need to breathe out? John 16:13 says, but when He, the Spirit of truth, comes, He will guide you into all truth. How many need to be guided today? Anybody need some guidance? You're like, I don't know where to go. I don't know what to do next. Some of you don't even know where you're going to go to lunch after service. And you're thinking, if He keeps speaking, it's going to be dinner time. I know you're thinking it. It may be. What do you need guidance in? And then John 3:34, it says this. It says, for the one whom God has sent speaks the words of God, for God gives the Spirit without limit. That means He don't say, Denise, here's 25% of the Spirit. John, you get 75%. Larry, you've been good. You get 80%. He gives it without limit. Some of you think and you feel like you are at your limit, like God's just given up. It's like, well, He already helped me through this, so He's not going to help me. It's on my own this time. You are not. Because He gives the Spirit without limit. Without limit. This divine breath, guys, is flowing through you. This divine breath of God is flowing through you. It's flowing through the person next to you. It's flowing through the person next to them. It's flowing to the person next to them. Guys, it's all holy ground. We just sometimes don't notice it. We don't realize it. It's all holy ground. Job 33:4. The Spirit of God has made me. The breath of the Almighty gives me life. He's given you life. When a baby is born, what has to happen for them to know if this baby is going to make it or not. Has to breathe. Or does it have to say the name of God? When you die, what happens? You breathe your last breath, or do you cease being able to say the name of God? You don't got to believe this for it to already take place. In fact, you may be here and you're like, I don't even know if there's a God or not. And I want to say this, you are 100%, you are in the right place. I am so glad you're here because you are surrounded by people that will love you regardless of your beliefs, regardless of what you did yesterday, or regardless of what you're going to do when you leave here. You are surrounded by people that love you, and we are so glad you're here. But here's the cool thing. You could be sitting across from a good friend of yours having lunch, and they don't believe in God, and they could be saying, there is no God. But what you would hear is, Yahweh. You can't help but say the name of God, or you will die. And here's the cool thing. There's no Methodist way of breathing. There's no Baptist way of breathing. There's no Pentecostal way of breathing. There's no Lutheran way of breathing. There's no American way of breathing. There's no Russian way of breathing. There's no Mexican way of breathing. There's no straight way of breathing. There's no gay way of breathing. It's all the breath of God. It's all the name of God. God. Hey. Va. Hey. What do I hope you get from this? What do I hope we all get from this? Is may we come to see that God is with us all the time. And as we slow down, we come to see that the ground we are standing on is holy. And this power that you need, this whatever it is that you need, it is as available to you as it is to breathe. What you need from God, it's available to you. You have access to it the same way you have access to breathing. By the way, we all have access to breathing. What is it that you need to leave? What is it that you need to breathe out this morning, this afternoon? What is it that you need to breathe in? It's all holy ground. Pastor Mark.